Hello, and welcome to a tarot deck review. My name is Lauren. Last time I did a deck review, it was an indie deck review. Today we are not going to be talking about an indie deck, but instead a mainstream, ooh, look at me being reflected and shit, a mainstream deck that you can actually get on Amazon and other locations. So the Dali deck is the deck of the day. Part of the Dali deck is not only do you get the cards, you also get, which they're slightly oversized, you also get a big velvet box and a big beautiful book. But as I did with my last deck that didn't have a book or anything, I don't feel like that's the most important part. What we're here for is the deck itself, and to talk about what is good or what is bad, where can improvements be made. I'm also not going to go into Dali as a person. I feel like old artists from back in the day, like almost all of them are problematic. So certainly we can find some issues if we really went looking. However, I will say, even though I'm not putting my rating system through my other rating system, which has to do with like, is it inclusive? Does it have this, that, and the other? Does it keep up with things in a type of way that grows tarot in its lineage? Because this is actually an older deck that's being mass produced, I'm not going to go with that. So a little bit of disclaimer there before we get started. However, as far as the packaging goes, just if you are curious, I think it's unnecessary. I wish the deck was simple, or a little bit more simple. The box, which, fine, I'll get it, is giant. This is absurd. It's kind of like an unnecessarily big box. I personally don't like decks that have big boxes because it becomes an issue of where do I even put this. Not a huge fan. It is velvet, like that fake crushy velvet, and that's cool. But it's just unnecessary. Comes with the book. The book is unnecessarily big. It's a good quality book, which of course boosts the value of it up. It comes with full color on the inside, which is, it's interesting, but is it necessary? If you're a collector like I am, I guess it really depends on your taste, because for me, this is almost ungodly. As far as my taste is concerned, the box is just another average box. It has this inlay. The quality of the box itself is not so impressive. The quality of the book is way more interesting. It has the Magician on the front, which of course includes Dali on it, so that's cool and stuff. But I'm just going to keep this video quick and go into the raw deal about the Dali deck, because I do think that's just kind of important to do a brief summary of what this deck is as far as strengths and weaknesses. And honestly, I'm not going to give it a number value. I'm just going to review it as it is, and my personal opinions on it, because like I said, I don't think mass-produced decks, older classic decks, are really what we're looking for as far as the decks that are going to evolve our relationship with tarot. I think that's really way more about what indie creators are doing and how they're interpreting, because I think the small makers are the ones that are the real shakers. I think there are certain indie decks out there that help us build our relationship with tarot and evolve it in a way that mass-produced decks just don't do. And there's tons of decks that I love that are mass-produced, but ultimately, this just isn't the big the main concern with this video. But to give you an idea, I'm going to keep getting that pocket of how different in size this deck is. This is the Morgan Greer Tarot, and this is the Dali Tarot. So it's not ginormous, but it is quite a bit bigger than this card. So when you're shuffling these cards, you're going to end up having to really expand your hand. Like, it's pretty big. So ergonomics, if you have a bigger hand, this deck is probably going to feel really, really good for you. For me personally, it just kind of feels a little bit more heavy-handed than anything. That's for my spread for the new moon, so I'm going to keep that over there. Yes, I just leave spreads out for the month sometimes. Fuck it. But yeah, let's talk about content. Right off the bat, I actually really love this box. I think this box is great. I wish it was more of just this box or something around this size, because this is not a bad box. It's pretty basic, but I like these kind of boxes. They're not bulky. They don't take up a lot of space, and I feel like I can throw this kind of box in my purse and run with it rather than a bit of the bulkier boxes where I'm more careful with them because they just feel more substantial and I don't want them to get hurt. Now, the content of the tarot deck as it is. Right off the bat, I'm not a huge fan of the backgrounds. This is Dali's signature, I believe, just repeated over and over again. That to me is not super awesome. But I will say the actual content of the deck, I'm more or less finding myself a fan of. There's certain cards that I really, really think are easy to read, but it's kind of this deck is a mixed bag. Getting past the packaging that's absurd, getting past the size, which is a little big to me. There's certain things about this deck. There's a reason why I hadn't gotten this deck until now, because I kind of had some issues with the classic interpretations. Mostly because if you are part of my channel, you know that I'm a stickler for the classic connection between tarot and astrology. And one of the decks I'll review eventually is the 8th House Tarot, which is literally a astrology deck. The problem that I end up having with this deck in particular is, like, right off the bat, I'm not sure if Dali really looked into tarot. If he had really a relationship with tarot at all, or if it was just like a hobby or something. Because some of the cards kind of bother me with their relationships to astrology. The cards that have astrology on them are all the majors, and all the astrology is not what classically goes with the cards, such as this Temperance. This is the astrological sign right there. And that's the symbol for Aquarius. Temperance is not associated with Aquarius. And I hate to be a stickler for the rules, but it kind of, to me, as someone who bought this deck, wants to like this deck, right off the bat, I was looking at pictures of it online and I was like, what the fuck? Like, did this person do anything to even understand it? Because the sun is associated with Leo. We see the lion right there. Or you could just associate with the sun. Whatever. But ultimately, it has the symbol for Gemini. Not even the right element. So there's certain things like that. Magician has the sun. Again, I hate to be a stickler for the rules, but that kind of bothers me because it kind of makes me wonder, did Dali care about the tarot before he started making the cards. Another thing about this deck that I didn't realize right off the bat is there is a lot in this deck, and like there's a lot in this deck where it comes to just a bunch of cutout images, a lot of old classic paintings that have been like cut out and pasted into this deck. I didn't realize that exactly until I got it, but yeah, it's all over the place with that. And so I feel a little disappointed that it's not actually his painting. I mean, I guess what did I expect? It is interesting as far as decks go. The decks, I don't really like decks with a lot of, what's the term? A lot of just copy, cut and paste sort of imagery. So I actually like how this is interpreted because there is more painterly aspects. It's more of a play in between this cut image and some paintings, maybe some of his drawings. There's like a little bit of a mix there that is interesting. I think that has some beautiful bits to it. I do like how some of these cards are interpreted. To be completely honest with you, I think some of them are really, really on point. This is one that I really love as far as Ace of Cups. I think it's a really good interpretation. But there's also some cards that I just do not really care for. The World. Not a huge fan. The World is usually associated with Saturn. This has Taurus for some reason, but Saturn is usually the ruler of the world. And as someone who has a chart ruling of Saturn, I'm kind of like, why did you do one of my favorite cards dirty? Like, But I think when it comes down to how we interpret cards and the decks that we have, it's kind of tricky, right? Like, some of these are just kind of meh like that. Yeah, I see the scales. I get what you're saying here, Dali. I get it. I get it. Does this world, though, just seem a little sexist to you? Just like a little bit? Because it does to me. It just kind of, it's a mixed bag kind of deck. And there's a lot of things that I do like. I think this Page of Pentacles, Page of Coins, as it were, really not a bad deck. Bad card, rather. Like, pretty interesting. It goes with the energy of this card, I think, really beautifully. But you're going to notice, as I'm pulling up cards right now, that there's something that you'll see repeating that I'm not really a fan of. Do you notice it yet? There's a lot of signature everywhere. Like a lot of signatures. And I think, for me, let me be honest with you, the fact that it has his signature all across the back, and then we have it all over the place, which again, this is a really famous painting that was cut and pasted here, which is kind of interesting, because this is a painting of assassination from, I believe it was either a French politician or revolutionary, I can't remember. But the big Dali signatures that are everywhere in a lot of these, I just think it gets really repetitive. And again, I think it leans in, it insists upon itself. It leans into this idea of you're buying a artist's work rather than a tarot deck. But besides that, honestly, every card that I've pulled from this deck, I've found really supportive. Right off the bat, pulling out these cards, I felt really drawn to them, really connected to them. Like I said, this style of art is not really my first choice. I think there's so many decks out there that are this kind of style where it is just, I know the word for it, but it's where it's just cut out pictures put together in a way that feels cool, you know? And like some of them are really beautiful. I really like this interpretation of this card. God, talking about signatures, what the fuck? It's like now that I said that, it's everywhere. The high priest. I just realized I don't think there's a high priestess. There's just a high priest. Oh wait, here it is. Really weird though, right? Maybe that's its version of a hierophant. Who knows? Yeah, that's probably what's happening. So that's definitely the classic hierophant vision. But yeah, my ultimate review of the Dali deck. If you are a tarot collector, go ahead for it. It's going to be one of those pieces that you either really resonate with it or you really don't. Oh my gosh. This is put with the moon. Wow, I'm like really surprised. One of them actually lines up with the astrology. Just the little things. But if you're not... Ooh. Did the tower also? Yeah, okay. Maybe it's not all hate. So it's one of those things, if you are just getting into tarot and you want a first deck, I wouldn't recommend this being your first deck. If I'm being honest with you, I think it's a beautiful deck if you're a collector. Like myself, if you're a reader and you like just collecting decks, this could be really interesting. Oh, 3 of Wands actually is really cool. I like that interpretation. But if you are a newbie, you want to get into tarot, you want to get in and start reading for yourself, this might not be the perfect deck for you to start out with. As always, I really recommend a really classic deck like the Smith-Waite to get you started so that you have like a really good backbone of where to get connected. See, the Fool is not as cool. And, you know, if you have this deck and you really feel connected, you really feel like it gives you a lot of magic and medicine, great. But if I had to rate this, I said I wouldn't rate this. If I had to rate this 1 out of 10, I would give it a 5. Because as I've been enjoying it, I enjoy it enough. But would I ever recommend someone like get it? No. I'm not regretful that I got it. I'm happy. I've been using it, like I said, every morning. I enjoy it for my morning pulls, and so far all my morning pulls have been good. But would I recommend anyone get it? No. Do I think you should get it? No. You should get it if you really are attracted to this art and you feel like it has a lot to offer for you. Definitely. But do I think that if you're a new reader that you'll pick this deck up and go, okay, yay, I can read tarot now? No, you will not be able to. So with that said, I hope you found this review supportive. Ooh, the moon. Interesting. You know, like I said, these are some of the cards. If this art really inspires you, if you feel really connected to it, go get it. But as I said, there's a lot of decks out there, especially indie decks. If you're going to go with a first-time indie deck, I'm still kind of looking for what that perfect deck looks like. The Way Home Tarot is probably one of the top 10 that I would recommend for if you're brand new to tarot. But if you're a reader, you've been reading, you know, go for it. See if you resonate with it. If you're really into astrology and tarot, it's a throwaway deck for you then, because the astrology in here doesn't even line up. This was the card I pulled today, so that's pretty cool. I like strength. That's a good interpretation of strength. But yeah, thank you for joining me. I hope this was supportive again. And as always, let me know if there is a tarot deck you think I should review, indie or otherwise, because I love fucking decks, and I'm going to collect the shit out of them until I die. Bye!